Hello, and thank you for joining us for the final session of our housing talks. In this session, we're going to go over moving in, problem solving, and community. So what will we cover in today's session? We're going to go over what to do when moving into your property, how to manage any disputes informally, what to do if you encounter issues throughout the tenancy, your responsibilities when living in a shared community, and how the Advice Centre can support you. So just before we start, meet the Advice Centre team. So we're a team of 3 full-time staff members. We have 2 welfare advisors, Bianca and Charlotte, and we have an Advice Centre manager called Manaz. So if you do ever come to our service for support, it will be one of our faces that supports you. So by this point, you will have already viewed your property, decided on that property, signed your tenancy agreement, and you're ready to move in. So there's certain things that you need to ensure that you do on moving day to avoid any future issues down the line. So when you are on moving day, there will be an inventory that is taken. And what that basically does is it records the condition of the property on that day. That then is used as a comparison for when you move out of the property to compare the conditions and work out if there's any issues that are of tenant's fault and any repairs that need doing, and then those costs might be deducted from your deposit. Now, it's really important to make sure that you record that accurately to avoid any costs being deducted from your deposit and avoid you needing to dispute those costs later down the line. The biggest issue that we see with students is not recording that inventory properly and not taking photographs of certain things, so things that you wouldn't even think of. So for example, the mattress, any marks on the wall, any issues with any white goods or any marks on furnishings. What we advise students to do and what we encourage you to do is walk around the property, take time dated photos of everywhere, so even places that you wouldn't think of, just to make sure that you've got that recorded. While you're doing that walk around, make sure you notice any damages that might need repairing so that you can report this to the letting agent and make sure that that is again recorded on the inventory. You should also be given a gas safety certificate and an energy performance certificate, so make sure you are given those by your landlord or letting agent. If you are in a tenancy where you have to arrange your own utility bills and your utility bills aren't included in your rent, we also encourage you to take meter readings because you will need to provide this to your utility supplier to get that process started. In terms of what to look out for, so your landlord has a responsibility to ensure the property is fit to live in. So it should be fit for habitation on that day that you move in. We'd suggest that you look for any maintenance issues that might affect you. So for example, any signs of damp, any signs of mould or any damages. So for example, if you can't use furnishings, also making sure that all appliances are working. So check the white goods such as the fridge and the freezer and make sure the boiler works so that you know that those work, and if there are any issues you can report that to the landlord and get that process of getting them resolved done a lot quicker. So early dispute management. So we encourage you to do all this to avoid any disputes later down the line and manage that at the start of the tenancy to avoid it affecting you later. Recording and reporting any issues provides written evidence that they were present at the start of the tenancy. So they show that those issues aren't due to the fault of the tenant or a fault during that tenancy, but they were actually there when you moved in. As I've said, this helps to avoid any future damage charges and any deposit deductions. If you do consider the property to be unfit, we'd always encourage you to seek support straight away. The sooner you come to us, the more options are available to you. So if there are any issues when you do move in and you need a little bit of support with that, make sure you get in touch and we'll cover how to get in touch a little bit later. So throughout the tenancy, any maintenance issues that might crop up, make sure you report this to the letting agent or landlord straight away. On moving day, the letting agent and the landlord will normally advise on the process that they have on how to report maintenance issues. Some letting agents might have an online process, whereas other letting agents or landlords, it might be a case of of emailing a maintenance man or contacting a staff member. If you aren't advised on this process on moving day or at the start of the tenancy, we'd always encourage you just to get in touch with your letting agent or landlord to ask them what that process is, so you know what to do if any issues do crop up. If any maintenance issues do crop up, make sure you continue to take photos and videos and keep these issues documented. So it's always good to communicate with the letting agent or landlord in a written format, because this provides evidence and a written paper trail that you have reported the issues and when you've reported them. So for example, over email. If you do have a verbal conversation, it's always just a good idea to ask the letting agent politely if they would follow up in an email, so you've got that written down. So what to do when things go wrong? So unfortunately, sometimes there are issues throughout the tenancy. We'd always encourage you to attempt to informally resolve those issues if possible. So speaking to your letting agent and your landlord to attempt to negotiate a solution, because then that avoids any further processes that you have to go through, and it's in the best interest of both parties. If you've attempted this and it's not been successful, or if you believe that the issue is a little bit too severe and it doesn't warrant an informal resolution, there might be more formal options. At this point, we'd always encourage you to access professional support. So for example, coming to the advice centre, speaking to one of the advisors about the options that are available to you and letting us support you with that. So also managing housemate disputes. So if you are living with other students, there might be occasions where there are disputes between housemates. In order to avoid any disputes, we'd always encourage you when you move in to speak about communal responsibilities. So if you are in a joint and several tenancy, there are certain responsibilities that everyone shares because you are treated as one. Or if there are communal areas such as a kitchen or a common room that you share, it is everyone's responsibility, any issues that happen in that area. So we'd always encourage you to speak to them first. For example, set up a rota with cleaning issues, taking the bins out, things that are communal responsibilities, to avoid any issues later down the line. If you do have disputes with your housemates, again, we'd always encourage you to informally try to resolve those. So speak to your housemate about the issues, try to negotiate a compromise and resolve them to avoid any further processes that you need to go through. If you are struggling to do this, or you have done this and you feel like it has not been successful, the University of Warwick do have a specialist mediation service that can support you. So there's full-time staff members who are trained in speaking with housemates, speaking with students and trying to come to a negotiation between both parties. So when you do move out of halls and move into a house, it is very likely that you'll be living in a shared community. So you might be surrounded by people who aren't students, and it is likely that you might be living next to people who work full time, work next to families, people who aren't students who have different responsibilities and lifestyles. We'd always encourage you to introduce yourself to your neighbours on that first day or when you do move in. Doing this sets a good impression, and it can help if you ever need their support later down the line. We'd also encourage you to check when your bin collections are, so you know when to put those out and on what days what gets collected, and to be wary of excessive noise. So as I've said, remember that your neighbours may not be students, they might work full time, or they might have children. If you are planning noise, just politely let them know that that will be happening and make sure you keep it within a reasonable time. So common mistakes that we often see students make. So the biggest mistake that we often see students make is not inspecting the condition of the property on moving day and not recording that inventory accurately. It's really important that you do a thorough walk around of the property and make sure you take timestamp photos of things that you wouldn't even think of, such as the mattress and the walls and furnishings, so that you have then got that documented that that was how the property was on the day you moved in. And if unfortunately your landlord does try to deduct some money from your deposit for any issues, you can then provide that evidence and show that those issues were not your fault. The second biggest mistake that we often see students making is not accessing support straight away. So unfortunately, some students do wait until it is a little bit too late to access support, and then there are less options available to you. The sooner you come to us, the more we can help and the more options are available to you. We are more likely to be able to negotiate with your landlord or letting agent on your behalf, or advise you on options that can resolve the issue. So we'd always encourage you to come and speak to us straight away as soon as you start experiencing any issues. So following on from this, the SU have recently released a platform called Rate My Landlord, and this is an online platform which allows students to publish reviews of their landlord or letting agent. The main purpose of this is so students can use this in their property search. So future students can read the reviews on the website and use that to inform them when they are choosing properties and they are looking around letting agents and landlords. We'd always encourage students to publish a review on this platform, as this can help inform future students and help the student community. So moving on, what is the SU Advice Centre? So because we're part of the Students' Union, we're completely independent from the university, and that means we can give you impartial advice, support and representation. We are completely confidential and we are non-judgmental and professional, and we can support you with any issues affecting your student experience. We are an information and empowerment service, so when you do come to us, we will give you all the information on all the options that are available to you to empower you to make an informed choice about what you think is the best route forward, and we do always act in the best interests of clients. Now, we can support students with a range of housing issues. We can also act on their behalf and negotiate with letting agents or landlords to try to come to some sort of resolution. And how to contact us. So we do have an online inquiry form that we ask all students to complete, and you can find that on the SU website under the Help and Support tab, as you can see in the screenshot. We'd encourage you to submit an inquiry form with a brief outline of the issue that you are experiencing. An advisor will then get back to you within 2 working days and arrange an appointment and then support you until you get a resolution. And thank you for listening.